All right, I'm going to show what I found in Psalms. And if you're new here, I have videos on every one of the Psalms that I did. So if you just search for that Psalm number, you should be able to find it on my on YouTube's website, or my YouTube website right down here below. And as you can see, I got new text up here, and there will be PDFs, not today. I'm having a trouble with my website right now, but it will be there within a week. Now, the formats that I'm looking for, if you're new, is that I search the text and I'm looking for 2 words in a row, and then I connect it with the least amount of words in between it. So I have like this one and this one. All these little ones here kind of make up what the statement needs to say, and then it would be counsel and wicked. Now, when I do this, this becomes a small paragraph, by the first verse being a statement, and the next 2 is a long sentence describing that statement. This happens in 99% of the cases. Now, this small paragraph and then another small paragraph makes a larger paragraph, so I have extra space between it. The gray colored words are words that I've had to add. The words in purple are our Creator, what He has said, or what He has promised. So what I did was I started giving them new titles, and I've divided them into sections because I are into different parts. Example, this one has a part 2. Now, and it's just a piece, so that's the way I've labeled it. So when I try to figure out what I'm going to do with all these pieces, they're easier for me to combine, and I know where I got them from. Let's see here. What else should I be telling you? Oh, this is what a psalm is, and this is a 4-verse psalm, okay? And this is a comma, period, comma, period. And I should mention that when I say it's a psalm, people are saying, well, that's not what a psalm is. Well, that's because you don't understand the hidden format yet. Because in Jeremiah, when Baruch, however you pronounce his name, he was a scribe, and he was writing Jeremiah's words down, and then he would go and report them, because Jeremiah was under guard at either a storehouse or someplace like that, or in the king's courtyard. So for many years, it seems like it's over 10 years long that he's kept under guard. And Baruch, he would go and talk to Jeremiah, and Jeremiah would send him with news, or the prophecies that our Creator is telling him. And he read once before the king, and the king didn't like what he had, or what he wrote, and he threw it in the fire and burned it. But the text will say he read 3 or 4 columns. So when you see this text and you see it as a column, okay, that's what he was reading on the scroll. And then on another, I don't know how big the scrolls were, but he would roll the scroll open, read it, roll it, read it. Okay. Now a scroll, once it's wrote on, you can't really re-edit it. The bad guys, those that don't believe in our Creator, they went and took the text and made it into sentences, but they used these formats as a starting place, and that's what I'm revealing. So if you want to maybe just watch a few videos in the future here on, because I'm doing Isaiah next, and I'm chapter 3, but it goes through. What I'm doing is I'm going through for history reasons, because when I get done with this text and you understand that this is Jesus's prophecy, you will understand that this is what you need to know, the truth that happened back then. If you want to sit here and talk to me about, well, you're not proving anything. Well, I am proving that the formats are here. And if I'm telling you that there are the bad guys editing the text, and who are the bad guys? The bad guys sit and meditate to have a sex with a so-called female goddess. And you must remain single once you have that practice. That's why the Pope is single. That's why the nuns are single. That's why monks, Buddhists, are single. Now, the text here, I should mention one more thing. If you read in my description below in YouTube, you will find the 1611 preface. It's a PDF, and what it'll do is when it opens up, you'll see that I have colored text. And you can go through the colored text and you will find that they said that Gregory is the divine with capital D, okay? So the thing here is once you start reading all the things that I point out, it's obvious that they do not understand that there is a creator of everything. They have a different belief system altogether. And it is before the flood as well. But it is the reason why our creator sent the tribes into captivity, because they stopped obeying our creator, which was the agreement of the 12 commandments. Yes, there's 12 commandments. If you study Exodus, 20 verses 1 through 17, you'll find 12, or you can watch the beginning of any of my other videos and see it. That's in my intro. And that's the lie behind what they're doing. They've covered up the text. So what I'm revealing here today is going to be the final text that I've got from Psalms, and not all the Psalms made it. And then I threw some out that are not needed because the wording is just a recap of what has happened, like how they came out of the Sinai. And that was 3 different stories. And the pieces are so confusing, so much editing, that I said, no, they don't belong. And I will show you them in this review here. Now, this is my editing when I'm replacing a word. So I needed to change this word to this word. And you'll see that I hope you've been reading some of these while I was talking. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just going to go through and point out that these are easy words, because if you notice here that I had a third word in this, I got 1 and I got 2, so I had to throw one out. When I'm doing these, I went through them first, and you'll see how many times I have to pick apart words and try to explain why they need to be thrown out or why they need to be kept. And I missed a lot of these, and that's what this is. This is the second editing of the original text. Maybe I should open that up and show you what the first text looks like. This is what the first text looks like, okay, as I go through, and then I clean it up. This is what I do, okay, move verses around. Had to move this verse from down here up here to maintain the format, but I go over every one of these changes. The red words are what I've added to the text, and I've left them italic. So what you see in italic words now, like have and are, is what I've added to complete the sentence correctly. By using the word are, really puts the first person back into the text as the first person was writing it, how they would have wrote it. Now, here, when I read what all the verses mean, I had to get rid of "is in heaven," and I had it saying, but I had to add "has prophesied," and "I will establish your king." How come that didn't go? Oh, that's strange. Anyways, Yah is the name that they had for Jesus, and I'll show you that just so when it comes up many, many times in Psalms. And then there's a lot of times I had to add his name. Just a second, I've got to pull up. I didn't have that open. This folder. So here in Isaiah 38, if you know about the text of the Hebrew text, they are to wait for Jesus to appear because he's coming to Jerusalem to be their king. Okay. So this is King Hezekiah, the king of Judah. Now this happens at a different time. This is way late, probably 600 years, maybe longer after they got out of the promise or came out of Egypt. But this king is saying here in verse 11, I said, "I will not see the Lord." And then when I put in what the actual Hebrew word is Yah, Yah in the land of the living. Now, this is a good description of what's being said by King Hezekiah's writing in Isaiah. Now, and that would be writings from that king at that time. Here, when I show you that this is the Hebrew word here, and you can see our Creator's name in 4 letters, yet they tried to change the text for God and Lord by changing just the Hebrew word and not giving a name, because what they've got here is the name of the God of Israel. Now, this is the New American Standard Concordance, which tells us how many times they changed this word to be this word. Okay, but if it's the name of the God of Israel, what if it's the name of our Savior from Israel? Let's put it up here and say, let me change this word here and praise Yah and sing to YV a new song, his praise in the congregation. Rejoice in their king, praise his name. Well, we'll learn that up here, praise his name. And then we have talking about salvation. So this is Psalms 149, and you'll see that at the end of this video, and what the text actually says. But I'm going to make a video, and I'll put that in the link, but I've got so much on what I'm doing here, I have forgotten. Yeah, I even forgot to put the chat window out here. So, because I'm doing these live, because this helps me explain in the recording for history what I'm trying to do, that for the future here. So Yah will mock them and speak to them. Just a second. I've got to pick
Here she is.
Okay. Sorry about that. But when mom calls, you got to call her back. So, what was I talking about here? Okay, his name was Yah, that they gave him. And so the red words will all be Jesus. So when you're looking through the text, when our Creator is talking about Jesus, I've made these letters like this. That way, everyone who is new to the text will understand by the way I'm editing it, the way they would have wrote it 2,500 years ago, at least some of this stuff is. Maybe some of them are even 2,700 years old. Now, no English format at all. This is oh, that's what I was going to say here. I had a 4-verse format here. I didn't continue. Here, I'm sorry. I was pointing out the 4-verse where it's a comma, period, makes the 4-verse paragraph, and then 2 of them connect together. So the writing style is the same. I've yet to figure out why they have a 3-verse and a 4-verse. My thinking right now, because of what I've seen in Jeremiah, and I've been doing this for 30 years, but and I think I last did these just a couple years ago, that I'm starting to get a better sense how many books they used that they had at that time, or how many scrolls they had at that time. You had different scribes writing, okay, and they would all be writing, and what they would have is very similar like words, okay, and then these guys took pieces and would put them in order the way they wanted them, re-edit them, then they started putting them into long sentences that you don't see these hidden formats. But let's see, I was down here saying, okay, this was the guy that I was saying wrote a lot for Isaiah. This has to be Jeremiah. How did I make that mistake? Okay, I gotta recheck that, because these should all be at that time. So, okay. Now this was unique in this little group of words right here. So you can see that as a complete, that this starts as the, like the way this is ended, which I found that unique in this Psalm. Okay, so I can tell you this is a complete set of words. A lot of times we just get partials and pieces of what's going on, but this is how I'm labeling some of these little areas of what, when it talked about silencing their tongue. You have to understand this is King Hezekiah, okay? And let me... Then it couldn't be wrote by this guy. So let me save that. Okay. I didn't know that I did that. Okay. These aren't too difficult of changing around or understanding the text here or what I did. Here, yellow means that I had to take these words and stick them down at this end for it to read right. A lot of times these words, I'm smoothing them out to read from one to the other because a lot of times I threw out maybe 10 verses in between some of these. So, YV will listen and consider my groanings. So, I couldn't use the word ears. I've decided to use this as the word listen. With your ears, consider my groaning. Well, we know our Creator made us in His image, so we know that He can hear. So the plea is going, and He's going to be saying this to our Creator, and He will be listening. Okay. And you can see that I had it as one time, the text I was making it as written differently. Then I found out that this text is being written by a righteous priest, maybe 150 years after King David. So the thing here is this needed to be changed. Sometimes it reads in first person one way and then in first person better the other way. So in this, I was thinking that he's talking later at a different time and not so much as a prophecy. Wickedness needed to be changed to evilness. Yep. And by the way, just like you noticed, it was King Hezekiah's time. Because I'm compiling all these to be as one book, I haven't figured out yet whether I should make Psalm a separate book or put it into where the text belongs. But until I do all the text together, because we got a lot of David's text, and I'm working the books backwards to get to this, so I haven't done them. But they might be able to go in David's time because there's a lot written about David, but there's going to be a few kings here that we know that we don't have much written about them, even though there should be books by them under both kings for both sides. The writers were writing in Judah about the kings that were in the nation Israel. And a lot of that text we are definitely missing. I had to add the word help. Soul does not hear. Our soul is what, as you know, some people can have a heart attack if it has a lot to do with our mental thoughts. It's like an emotional place keeping there. Small editing. Too many words, had to get rid of that. I have stole from him, not plundered. I didn't like the one plundered. Plundered is usually the word I'm using as after they've killed somebody, then they plundered. Not that they he plundered them here. He wouldn't have killed them. That's against our Creator's commandments. And the good guys don't do that, okay? Uprightness to obedience, I just thought it was a better word. These are Nathan's words, and this here is a promise from our Creator at Abraham's time, which I can pull that up and show you that in Genesis 17:6, he's making his covenant or his everlasting promises, and he starts out from your son's seeds. The kings shall come forth from you. Okay, and then down here, in him, which would be one of these kings that we're talking about, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Well, here is talking about Jesus, and this is not nations, this is races on the earth will be blessed. But we don't have a blessing. We don't know what the blessing is. And the blessing doesn't happen until Nathan tells David about Jesus having a kingdom, his king, mighty king will come in his name, and to everyone on earth, which you know that Jesus is able to forgive now anybody on the earth to enter into his kingdom, and we are become Jesus's servants. Okay. These are David's words, and then you're going to see I needed some extra editing, so I've moved like this group out down farther. I had to move this group down farther. This group I've got is out because I couldn't find a place for it. And so what I did was I moved the group down here, and the other group I moved into part 2. Because this story is talking about Moab and Ammon. Now, Moab and Ammon are the two kingdoms that Moses took or conquered after they got done not defeating the Amalekites, had to cross over into east of the Jordan River, and as they come around Edom, then they battled these two, and then they took their land, and these two were killed off completely, men, women, and children. And that's because, one, our Creator told them to do that. And why did they do it? The text will say unclean, but there will be verses that will tell us what unclean means. Means they were having sex with each other and animals. Enough of that, got rid of all that, kill them off. And this talks about that, that they were blotted out their names. That's why I knew this was talking about Moab and Edom. There's a lot of hints in the words of how I've labeled these. Maybe you're not familiar with all the stories. I've been doing this for 30 years. Just like I'm going to put this under the Malachi's prophecies, or what he would say at this time. It's because of what's being said at this time. I had to add my Lord, YV my Lord. And I had to do that quite a few times. The first time I didn't, because I didn't know how the text was reading, whether YV is our Lord, YV is our Creator, YV, things like that I needed to take a better look at. So you'll see many times this editing. Afflicted they were oppressed by their evil ones. Evil ones are those that are against our Creator, against his 12 commandments. Wickedness becomes the next level down, where people are wicked against each other. Now, smoothing out those. This is rare right here. This text did not go into the format that I'm seeing. See, I had to leave one break, and the stories don't group together at all, but the story is there. When I read it over and over, I'm thinking these might be such an early time writing. It is from Isaac, okay? This is how he would say these things. Okay, because it talks about he rained fire and coal, and that was on Sodom, and there is no such thing as Gomorrah. But the thing here is he would be the one that would, after Abraham, he would know this, and he would have written it, and he would have been the only one that would write it. And since it's a format, when I say 99% of the text goes into those 3-verse and 4-verse, these verses didn't do that format. So this is one of the rarest times you'll see this. So it has to be maybe the original text they saved from Isaac's time. These two prophets I'm not sure about, but these editings I don't see. Deceiving tongues, it's the tongue that spake. See, they didn't know about the voice box. So what happens here is that they knew that if man's and man I use as the way our Creator defined man, meaning male or female, or male or females. When I say man, when man's tongue is cut out, they can't speak. So they thought it was the tongue that created it. So when you read the words speaking in tongues, it meant speaking in different languages. Okay, not the gibberish that they're all jumping up and down. They're just too far away from the truth, been lied to and deceived. Meanings I had to put in, and I know that's because I was just telling you how art, it really has a lot to do with emotions. So it's a far stretch without me adding it as saying it's gray text. I left it as, this is probably when I say it's within the shadow of the word, this is the extreme edge, okay? But I use the word mankind to make sense out of what's going on, who it is, just not who is anybody. These verses I had to add completely, and they read pretty good. These words here just needed to get rid of to smooth things out. Foolish say, and I didn't need the third word, didn't need the third word here. The third word here as well, because I got 3 right now in this, but I need to have that word here when YV sends him, because this is one of the rare cases that I will use 3 in here, but I can't get away with it. They is saying get rid of one of these words and you would understand the verse. So it will happen from time to time. Now here, nothing. Okay, I thought these were some of the greatest words by an unknown prophet, because it talks about not allowing the Holy One, which is Jesus, to undergo decay. And Holy One means closest to our Creator. It actually should mean the highest one, our highest one, or your Holy One, your highest one, highest male from Israeli people. Our Creator does not lie. So when I just showed you here that He's promised them through His son's seed, it says down there, and your seed shall produce your end, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. So then the same promise is given to Jacob, then David, and then Daniel, and I think Hezekiah is all being said through their sons, so they're supposed to wait for Yah. So you should know that our Creator does not lie, and Jesus defines what is Holy Spirit, and that'll be in the YouTube description. I have a detailed video on Jesus defining what is Holy Spirit, because I know you can't. I've talked to many people over 30, 40 years, and nobody can define what is Holy Spirit until you understand Jesus defined what is Holy Spirit. And He defined it as our Creator's breath. Now, I'm not seeing too many extras here that I needed to explain why I'm doing these. I needed to add this word So like I said, yeah, I left it alone. I probably from YV, and I didn't know the answer until now, or until the second edit. Unknown writers. These titles that I've got here that you're seeing, a higher priest. The understanding of what is a higher priest. They had synagogues, and I'm sure they had a Levite stand up and say, he is teaching them. He's acting like a priest, or it could be a teacher. And then you had a scribe. But the higher priests are the ones that are working, doing the ministry and the services within his tent or his house courtyard. So that's what higher priest is, and then there's one that's the highest priest. This is them talking, and I had to add a word here, and from the text I'm guessing it's the fourth generation. But see, they were, for our king is coming. Yah is our king with glory. With YV, he is strong and mighty. So this is how they are writing of him. Okay, so you can see that when the word Yah is actually shown to you here in the text, not in an English form like the word Lord, you understand who our king is. Our king is coming. Who is our king? Yah. So this will be one of the verses that I'll show that Yah is the name for him. Now Yah will ascend Mount Zion. I will show you verse 48 and tell you what Mount Zion is, and he will live in his heaven. So we know it was Yah that they give when you see the original name they gave him. Yeah, the words kind of describe whether they're a king, a prophet, or a lot of these unknowns might be scribes' writings, okay? Where they are wicked planners. It should be schemers here, but I put planners. What I'm trying to do is keep to the knowledge that we know of the Hebrew text, that the Hebrew language didn't have many more than 20,000 different words. So let's say that they had 30,000 words, where today by 12th grade you're using vocabulary up to like 80,000 words, 60 to 80. So that's the difference. So I'm trying to make it like they didn't have the word scheme, but planners they would have understood. Trying to put the text back the way they would have wrote it is very important, to be able to get the understanding how these people were thinking at that time and what they knew. Go down to stay. I can use two words to mean one word. I figured that would be easier to do. The abyss is a dimension of time and space underneath the ground. The surface you see on the earth, they called land. Underneath the land, there was ground. So when you walk up to a river and you can see things growing under the water, that is still known as land under the water. But underneath the ground, then they have the place, the abyss. And that comes from our Creator when he tells Abel that his brother Cain, he can hear him calling from the ground. Remember, this is their knowledge at this time. And that's all they needed to know at this time as well. I didn't know if I was going to keep this or not. I made the call later. I needed I actually forgot a word in this verse, so I took too many out. So I changed the word deeds to acts. Deeds are like, I want to keep to your acts of kindness, okay? But acts means you're willing to be this way all the time. When you see text from David, you'll find the vividness in the words that is talking about enemies. David was a conquering king. Actually, from Jeremiah, we learned that the missing years of, let me bring this up. I've done this text, and this is a very accurate timeline. There is maybe 250 to 350 years where all the judges are missing from the time of Joshua to Eli, who is the last judge. We don't know. I don't know if this number is true or not. But I'm saying that the people that came out of Egypt were very obedient to our Creator for a long time. But in Jeremiah, we find out that in one of our Creator's prophecy, he said that they started that having that praising false gods and idols, and were putting them into his tent for meeting. So he was not showing himself as light above the mercy seat when the priest went there. But example, the first thing we do find is Eli's here. He is a priest, and then he's a judge for all Israel, the nation Israel. But it's actually divided at that time into two nations. We don't have any of the text saying why, but that's what's going on from what I've learned, or what I can tell you from what's in Jeremiah. But from then on, after David puts both of them back together, then at Solomon's time does our Creator divide them into two. But David is conquering. He actually put them back together, and he reestablished with good priests, and established our Creator's house again, and he was appearing above the mercy seat again. And in Psalms here, I'm going to show you that what a priest wrote. These are pretty simple. I put the word honor instead of praised. I felt it was a better word because a righteous person is one who obeys our Creator first, then his family. So a righteous one does our Creator's will first, and then our Creator will bless him the most to keep his family together and keep them from troubles. Now, we all have burdens, so it can't be getting sick or stuff. That's just common for everybody. That's a burden, and we all have burdens. But to receive our Creator's fullest blessings, a person has to be righteous. And when they came out of Egypt and they knew the Creator was there working with them, they were very obedient. They became the righteous people. Abraham was righteous. He listened to our Creator and was willing to kill his sin. You don't know how important that act is. That is extremely important. Schemed to planned again, dumb to closed. Dumb does mean they can't speak, but their lips will be closed means silent. So I wanted to put that in. Not that for they speak arrogantly. So I put the word closed. I thought that was better. Jehoshaphat, he is a king. Let's see, where is he at? Oops, it's under a different one. Jehoshaphat, he's, yeah, third. Okay, so this is coming from this timeline, and then we have all these other kings, and you can see by the year count. By the way, this year count is extremely correct. I think there's only 1 or 2 years, and it could be 1 year wrong, 1 year over, minus or over. So I put it as 2 years, but it should be plus or minus 1 year. And these are in relationship to this king's timeline when these appeared. These other guys showed up. So it's not like an accurate timeline. Now, that's how old this psalm is. When they say they're all wrote by David, there's words in here that I know that I went over when I was labeling them, and that is under the first editing videos. You'll have to go to them to see why I did a lot of these labelings. I made choices here instead of acts by all their choices. And then these aren't complete. They're just small little snippets out of different text. So, but that's why I can't guess at them. This is why I just put advice to children, because here this is all talking about how to help the children out to understand what's going on. And the text down here will talk about they turned away in humiliation, who had devised their evilness. Now, this could come from 3 different prophets, okay, at that time. So, because after Jeremiah's time, there was another priest or another prophet that was on the land. Can't think of what his name is right now. And by the way, when they returned, it was only 40 years that they were in Babylon. And that comes from Daniel. I've already done Daniel. That'll be in the PDFs when you look at that. And read that, and you'll see. Well, I guess not really Daniel, but it'll say compiled the books together so far. So from Jeremiah to all the small prophets that talk about the end, I put all their text and put it in order from all those books. And you can read the stories and you'll see that it has to be Daniel who is sent back to Jerusalem, because the text is wrote in Aramaic, and the letter that they sent back to the Persian king. And only Daniel would have known where everything was at, because he was the king's advisor. Surprising I did so good on the first cleanup on some of these. Josiah is a good king. Now here is the important one. YHVH'S late in his tent and house. When I read this text, it was so important and your light of your presence, you did favors. Now, the only one that could be writing text like that right there would those that are seeing him appear above his mercy seat, which makes this writing from a priest, okay? Now, I've got here after Pekah. So let me show you who Pekah is. Pekah is this king of Israel. And when Assyria first came down, they lost all these tribes' lands. And then later, when Assyria come down, they took the rest of them. But at this time, right here, and I would say even maybe the first years for Zeke, our Creator was showing himself as light above the mercy seat. In the tent of meeting, then we know that in those 300 years, they fell away, so he wasn't appearing. And then from David's time on, to right to here. So let's just say 50 years, 60, 70 years, 110 or 210 or 220, I think. Anyways. So we got 300 years, 60. So we got 100, maybe 300 to 400 years that our Creator is appearing a light from David's time. And then we have to go back from Moses' time, which we don't have any years. We don't have any years on Joshua. And then we have, I would say, 200 years at least here. So maybe let's call this 250 years that they were good and our Creator was appearing as light. So yeah, I had way too many words on this one. That was just too many words. But when I'm talking and yakking and trying to think and explain, that's what happened on the first edits, just like this. And then I made decisions from here. Okay, here is the location of second heaven. This is very important. And I also have a video below. And there's only one Bible out there that has the location of heaven, let alone telling us what the second heaven looks like to them. And this in the far north. When you see some of the pictures that they take now in time lapse, you'll see the stars making this mountain in the second heaven, which is the stars, but it's Mount Heaven or Mount Zion they called there. That's the true Mount Zion. Above the North Stars where our Creator heaven is located. Okay, so when you think about where did Moses raise his staff to heaven? He knew where he was facing the North Star, and he raised his staff to ask for our Creator's plague to happen. We also know that when Jesus asked to feed the multitude, he looked to heaven. So now you have a vision of where they were looking, okay? And then I had to make next generation as just children until death. I think I had it a four verse that I made into a 3 verse. There's much text about Jesus when you see it colored red like this. You won't see this. Now, this is King Ahab. Now, this was the guy that Elijah poured the water on his offering to our Creator, and then fire came down from heaven. So now you know where the fire came down from heaven. And then Ahab was a good king. Okay, so wash away my guilt and forgive my sins. So this is when you got this type of wording, I can pinpoint these people from the stories that I know that exist in the text. A righteous scribe, this is how a righteous scribe would write. There's even a psalm that talks about the righteous people, how they live, or it's a righteous priest that would work in his courtyard. and you'll be amazed at how they help people. So if you want to know what a true righteous person that's a Levite priest that worked in his courtyard, what people knew about them, that will be very special text. Salvation to Savior, that was pretty easy to see the change. Will come when, I don't know why I've got the word when in yellow. Can't remember now, but I know there's a reason. Maybe that was a note to helping later. Like I didn't know whether to keep the word when or Jerusalem. That's probably what the problem was here. They're probably both highlighted in yellow. In text like this, you can tell it's a scribe and not a priest or a king. So you can really look these over and get an understanding of the thinking of different people. Because a king will write about his people, his nation. Prophet will write as against the king or for the king, and he's speaking to the people because he's speaking prophecies. Now, this was the end of Judah, so this is kind of like what I was saying, that this guy was writing for Isaiah or for Jeremiah. And you got to remember, he was doing a lot of the speaking at our Creator's gate. And when you learn that from the text, it tells you, and you got to piece this from many pieces to know this. But across from the gate to the entrance to his courtyard was the king's house, okay? And then somewhere close to that would be where the priest lived. Now, the gates to his house are in the south, so the king's house is here. Our Creator's house is here in his courtyard, and the entrance from the east into Jerusalem is here. So the priest's house has to be here where they stayed, and their family would be here. So now you have an understanding of the roading, and the king's house here is there. Because when he announced it, the guard there would be saying, look, we got a guy out there prophesying against our king, so send out whoever in there. So they'd come out, and that's how the king would receive the information. Now, the prophets also went to different gates to talk to people as proclaiming, but most likely he'd proclaim it there first and then go other places. Now, this is talking about after they returned to Jerusalem, and it's going to be talking about what happens when Yah comes. Okay. They are twisted lies. They're not acceptable lies. You can't be acceptable at all, any time. They were twisted lies. These are pretty easy. Okay. Text noted as reestablish Jerusalem, so you know what time the text is. A lot of times you might want to just try to figure out these yourself by finding the words in there that you can say, well, I know this, so this might be at this time, and do your own study. Everybody has a different learning rate because each one of you are to talk to our Creator. Instead of laying down and just going to sleep, talk to our Creator as you fall asleep. That way he will teach you and you will get a better understanding. So the more you talk to him directly, like from the days of Adam and Eve to probably before the writings started, So that's how they knew our Creator. They would just talk to Him. In fact, that's what the word prayer means. When you pray, it's the act that you're in to talk to our Creator. So when I say he prayed to Him, he talked to Him, and you know that he's either kneeling on his knees or he's got his hands spread out looking to our Creator into the north. Okay. A petition is to ask Him. So there are two things. They're different. The words. Yeah, these are within the shadow of the words. They're pretty good. So you won't have any hard time. I don't think I really need to explain any more than that. Yeah, I had to get rid of a lot of words here. I had 1, 2, 3 words in this. I had to decide. I had to get rid of this one when I read it over. Our highest to change. I needed to keep the word change, and I needed to keep the word highest. This is talking about Jesus as our highest high. Okay. I think this is where I changed it from Holy One. And when you look up the Hebrew words for holy or high, what was it, Holy One, you'll find that they also used as the word high. And so this is when they put two words together and they would make two different words out of it. But actually it should be highest high or higher high or richer rich. Things like that when you see the two words together. Here is Psalm 78 that I'm getting rid of. And you want to talk about a very nice poetry-like rhythmic format. Listen, my people, to my story about us, and listen with your ears to the words from my tongue. I will open my mouth and speak of our past, for we have heard and learned, for our forefathers have told us. Now that is first person. That is just beautiful text. But I don't think anything other than what's being said here at all is that great to keep the text. Because there's a lot of text missing. I tried to put it in order as I could, and then when I've done the second reading after this, there's a great big group of words that are missing. So once you understand our Creator, actually you study and try to learn the text and learn the history of the text. Example in the description in YouTube is our Creator's everlasting formats. That's completely different, but when you read that text is so accurate. It's not funny. It's a direct message from our Creator to people today and tomorrow. And then you'd understand all this if you actually studied instead of just going to a gathering and them telling you what they want to tell you, so they keep you stupid. Remember, there's 12 commandments, not 10. High places are altars. Graven images are their gods. Israel, they rebelled, had to be Israel. When I was reading this, it dates the text by saying they gave them to Assyria, because somebody had to be writing after the nation Israel was given to Assyria. So, but all that's out. But it even goes up to this time, like this. These two, there's going to be 105 and 106 as well. And they're both relating the past history, and you can see that the history is shortened up as a very long story. And that's probably how the quick overall story was being told, and then they had other in depth. So they had many different writings, and I'm thinking this writing was what they were teaching from and just going over like the history, the basics. And I'm sure you don't even know the basics. His face to shine, well, actually, Yah to come to them, send Yah. I left this in because here you will shine forth. So here you are above the mercy seat that the angels hold for you to shine forth. Just to let you know, there's another verse that's telling you that I added the words mercy seat, but when it says the angels, and it didn't have the correct word here, hold, I knew that was talking about the mercy seat, because you have to understand what's in his meeting room when he had it set up in the tent and what it looks like in the house. Why was the mercy seat there to begin with? For the asking of the atonement, for the forgiveness of the sin of one of the 12 commandments. They didn't obey that one, and they needed to be atoned for it. So this is awfully important. These words were written by Aaron. This is this. You have to know the book, know all the stories. I've been doing this 30 years, so it's easier after. It was easier after probably the 10th year that I started really knowing, because what I was seeing was truthful and what was not truthful. Added the word add goddess because we have no God, and then worship any goddess. If you, let's see. This is the sun god Ra. This is the crescent moon that they meditate on to have sex with the so-called female goddess. And you can see their drawings. This is out of actually a Bible. This is a figurine that they found. This is Athena in Rome. So that's their goddess they're worshiping. Show partiality, side, vindicated, helping. Those I think are real easy to understand. When I'm reading this, I'm leaning more towards this prophet than this prophet, but I could be still wrong. Levites are the priests, but it's a small piece, so it means that this is a time when this was wrote would mean that the priests were evil. And let me show you here. Oops, timeline's gone. If you notice, I've got kings with capital letters. These are good kings. These were all kings that honored our Creator. Over here, this is when Elijah convinced him, and he only lasted to his son, but not his youngest son. And then you'll see that Jehu came from that king's son, come over here, and his son, and then they fell apart again. They started believing in the female goddess. And what happened here, now we have words in Jeremiah that said that they were having harlotry in their forehead. Okay, that means that they were meditating, waiting for her to appear. And anybody that has studied mythology or been told to study mythology, you would understand that Zeus, Athena sprang forth in his forehead. They'll say from his forehead, but it's meaning inside his forehead. This nut He put the image of his goddess in our Creator's meeting house, which means the priest had to have the same practice, and that's what's going on. He also put an altar in there for the horse gods. So that's what happened. This is what was happening over here and why our Creator sent him away. But at this time, this king here, he was the stupid one that now all Judah is going to go into captivity, or the good ones that were left from the Israelis. I call Israelis are the true believers or the best believers, and then Jews are the ones that have that meditation practice that are against our Creator. Here again, you're going to find that the name Yah appears in the text that way. Yeah, when you read this, you can tell that this is from a priest, especially right through here. Okay, I'm running out of water here. Now, if I forgot to mention, that's what these lines are, is they needed another group. And what happened when I was doing Jeremiah and piecing it together, some of those pieces went right together where I could get rid of this group, and the other text I found went right in here, perfectly placed. So that's why I was knowing 3 verses were written from one story and 3 verses from another story. They had similar like words, and you'll see me throwing those out. This king did this. That's why it has to be this king at this prophet. I don't think those are too hard to understand. Too many words. Got rid of one. I didn't think you needed to watch me itch my nose. Nathan. These words, when you read them, this has got to be Nathan. The way this is wrote is definitely a prophet. And then when you read it, you kind of like, yeah, he's the one that told David the prophecy. So he could be able to write all these. These words can't be said by too many people as a prophecy. Our Creator said them. So make him the highest. Okay, so here's the word that I did not change. The word is highest in the text. That he's not part of the Trinity. He's not the Son of God. When we talk about the text that is written, that Nathan tells David that his son is going to sit at the right hand, this is a relationship for the people on earth to understand what our Creator is pointing out as importance. A king always has his son sitting on his right, and he is going to take his place. There is no way anybody that our Creator is going to create that's going to replace our Creator. So you got to understand that, and understand a lot of the text that when you're reading, you have to understand it's for the people on earth to understand. Okay. But a lot of words from Jesus in this text. A lot. Lord Wybe, you have been by our homes, which means he's in the house we're meeting in Jerusalem, and your life is everlasting. They were knowing he was appearing to them. They knew he was everlasting. This is the length of timelines that they had for people. Like common was be 60s years old. Few would be into the 70s. They didn't have people living into the 80s, 90s. So Again, the word highest shows up as a single word that I did not change. So a lot of the text, that's why I've got this word in italic, that I added this. I had to add this word. In, I had to add. His, I had to add. But here, it's his highest to live in. It would probably be your kingdom, but it's actually Jesus is going to have a kingdom, and those of us on earth are going to be in his kingdom. And just don't think this is going on just the earth. This is going throughout the universe. So you got to remember, our Creator is. So if I said there's been a trillion to a trillion power of his existence for us to understand in our year terms, he made a lot of beings before he decided that, look, I'm sick and tired of these people, these beings that I've created don't believe who I am. Send them to earth. Give one more chance before he's going to divide us. Those that believe we have a creator, me, I know he exists. So we'll go to heaven, and then after Jesus' second coming and the end of man on earth, then he's going to divide this place to hell from those here that have ever existed on earth that don't exist, that want to honor and respect our creator. They're in the hell. Now they get in a great wake up when they end up in the darkness and the abyss. So they still have a time to repent while they're in the abyss, but they've been down there for thousands of years. Maybe they just given up, but maybe there are some that will end up in heaven. But when he cleans out the abyss the second time, it's going to be when Jesus comes, or after his second coming. Now, like I said, this will be all on a PDF. So you can look at all stages I've done. This is one who lives righteous. Here's 105 again, talking about descendants of Abraham, statutes and promises that he promised in the Sinai. So this is kind of text that I thought would have been together with the first one, but I couldn't put them together. I couldn't put the next group together either. Because here they're leading them out of the Sinai here. Ask the Egyptians for silver and gold. Now here's same thing, and you can see how many times it was divided up as meaning different groups of text that I could keep together, but I could not at any time put those three, and I did try to put them in order, but the style, the way the writer is writing does not fit. I think there's some 4-verse, and then there's a 3-verse. No, they're all 4-verse. Aren't they? That's why I tried them. Nope, this was they were all 4-verse groupings. That's why I thought I could get them together, but I can't. So these are actually going to be not in the final text at all. I'm looking for things held, exalted forever. Upheld, you can't do that. That's something you do with your hands. This is what you would do by your voice in respect and honoring him. So much. Okay, we were brought back, our captives to Jerusalem. So when people say that the Psalms are written by David, they aren't understanding the text, that when you read it, that these words were in there. They didn't even happen until after David. David wouldn't understand Judah and Israel. Okay, not until after Solomon died did he do that. In the first years of Jeroboam, became the first king of Israel, and Rehoboam was the first king of the nation Judah. And you notice how these are, I'm using these as straight up words. So this is actually straight from the text, even though they're Hebrew words. I put them in, and they were there. So yeah, I was still thinking about that. So that's a reminder for me. Told tells. Sons has to be people. And then this is 149 that I told you that I'd show you when it's cleaned up. Looks good. Yes. Don't know who that was written by. Now, what I did was, where is it? This is going to be Psalms. All that editing that I just got done showing you, this is going to be them without it. So what I'm just going to do is kind of be silent here, just so you can look at it, take screenshots, or just see the beauty of the text. You know, by looking at it, you can see the coloring of the text is really going to help people. Instead of reading the word he and not knowing whether it's our creator, whether it's Jesus, or it's just a male. So this is all encoded and encrypted. So I think it's better if I just kind of show you quickly how good the text is going to look. In fact, maybe that's enough of that, because you can find it here. Now that this would be a good one to take a screenshot of real quick, because when you read this and you kind of figure out he blotted out their names, well, you know that he tried doing Amalek, but Saul didn't wipe them all out. Okay. Now David did go down there, but he pushed them out. They were fleeing for their lives, but by the way, I forgot to collect that. I got 4 verse, and this should be like that. Well, I got to now go through and correct that one too. Because this means this is a period. this would be a comma. Okay. Well, I'm glad I stopped there. And boy, I'm going to have a slideshow that's going to fit over me and above my memes here of just this text. So that's going to be an error, but hey, I'm not perfect. But anyways, that's going to be the video for the day. I'll try to be back later tonight to do chapter 3 of Isaiah, and before it starts looking this good. So with that, I will end this stream. Have a great day.